I wanted to finish as well on recurrent neural nets, okay? So, all right, so this morning, on Monday morning, we looked at a whole bunch of aspects, including training, and I talked about these two big ones, so LSTM and gated recurrent units. And I said the details of them, it's not something we're going to look into this course. If you want, I put some links to very nice tutorials, or at least famous tutorials, especially the Colas blog is a very famous one. So if you want to read more about that, it's definitely worth to read here. Okay? And the video here is quite nice as well, explains nicely what's going on in the LSTM. Okay? The idea for you at your level, you don't need to know exactly what's going on in detail there, just use them and just see which one works best for you, okay? I just wanted to finish with this problem, okay? And it's quite a nice application, and this is 2015 by a team at Google, and it's called Image Caption Generator, okay? So we worked on text, we know how to generate text, and we worked on images, okay? And the idea is to have both and to be able to say, given a picture, can you generate a text, okay? And if you look at the link here, this is pretty cool. So this is example I gave you in the first handout, is you have this picture and it generally produces a text like that. So a group of people shopping at an outdoor market, there are many vegetables at the fruit stand. Okay, so this is something that the system will generate automatically. Okay, so all the English text here is produced by the system. And the way it works is it all starts from a big data set of annotated pictures. So there's a whole bunch of data sets. So there's like Coco, Flickr 30K, and so on, Pascal. And there are all a bunch of data sets of pictures annotated by people. So people, for each of these pictures, you might have up to, 5 different annotations. So 5 people wrote some text to describe the picture. Okay, so you have on one side the pictures, and the other side the annotation, description of the picture by some humans. Okay. And you can download these data sets, anybody can do that. Yeah? Sorry?
So the CNN for us would get us a vector of the features, and that would, vector of the features.
I'll explain that. I'm just about to explain how we get that, okay? So this is the way it works, okay? So you start from the picture, and we know how to analyze picture. We have, say, VGG, okay? So VGG will, go from the picture level to some kind of very nice representation, very detailed representation of your picture in a semantic way, okay? And basically, all we need to do is to look at one of the last layers of the network and say, well, the results we have from that layer give us a feature vector of size, in this case, 4,000. And this is a pretty damn good vector of a good representation of your vector, okay? So people would say it's the same way we talked about word embedding. This is an image embedding, okay? So you transform the image into a feature vector, which is a smaller dimension. And in this case, we use VGG for that, and that'll give us a picture embedding, if you want. Then, what we do is we reuse the same kind of text generator we talked about, okay? But in this case, the only difference is that in the context, we're going to feed to the context as an input, we're going to feed the vector of the picture, right? So the text generation works the same as we've seen, okay? So you have kind of a word in and a word out, okay? You predict a word here. So you start with a word and you predict another word. And you have this context, okay? And the context here is just in your let, so you can take whatever you want. And in this case, as an extra input, you're going to take the vectors that you got from the image, right? You just feed that into your context. And now you say, good luck, train, and see if that helps. Okay? Yes?
Is this supervised at this stage? So will you have the
Yes, you have the captions. You have the captions, so you can't try to predict the next text. You look at the corpus of text you have from the captions. All right? All these kind of things, 95% of the problem you have usually are 99% of the problem are supervised learning. Okay? I'm not saying there's no unsupervised learning. There is definitely unsupervised learning, but most of the time you just turn your problem into supervised learning somehow. Okay? You do classification at the end as well.
Could you elaborate? I don't understand on this point. Like, why would there need to be captions on the image? Why is it tough for them?
Because it's the same model here. You need to predict what the next word should be. All right. So how do you predict what the next word should be? Well, you need to have existing text to do that. To say after this word, given this picture and this word, usually my future should be, my next character should be that. Okay. So it's kind of your model. If you oversimplify that, you have your picture in, and you have that going down, and you have your context, and now you have given a word what the next word is. Okay. And to train that system, you need to have access to both the picture and the text, existing text. All right? And this is where the data set comes in, because you have all these data sets that have actually that. They have the picture and the text. So you can do the simple task of predicting what the next word should be.
Because otherwise it will not be able to make out the semantics of the sentence. It will not be able to make out the sense.
Yeah, so you have enough text that you can actually generate that. Okay, you can actually generate that. Now you can be smart about that, okay? I don't think they've done that here, but you could reuse some networks that already learn some kind of English language features and reuse that as part of your training as well. Okay?
We use two different networks. One is for images and one is separately.
For text, yeah. But here in this case, I have to double check that, but I think they just had enough text to be able to understand about language. So they're able to predict what the next word will be with quite a good accuracy. So a few points here, like because we here work on the word level, they have two keywords. They have one start keyword and one end keyword. And the point of these two kind of keywords, okay, is just to be able for you to start the sentence and to end the sentence, okay? But otherwise, the generation principle is very much similar to what you've seen, okay? And this works. I mean, they have amazing results, okay? So here you have a person riding a motorcycle on a dirt road, a herd of elephants walking across a dry grass field. And it's pretty damn good description. I mean, the thing I really like, all the words and all the grammar, the English was just learned by the R and N, okay? So all the, yeah, so a dog is jumping to catch a frisbee, underrated, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. So even the mistakes are quite interesting. Okay. Yes.
In the first column, are those pictures is that a test set? So like it
No. It hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't seen these pictures. So this is actually generated sentences by the system.
It can reproduce the exact sentence that
Yeah.
which is somewhat vague.
I don't know. It's probably not exactly the same sentence, okay? But it's it's good enough for us that it makes sense. Yeah. So you see, you've seen quite enough now that you can actually do pretty cool stuff, okay? I mean, there's nothing really in the paper that you couldn't be able to yourself to reproduce. And one of the aspects, when I talked about revolution in deep learning, one of the reasons why it's a revolution is because it's not just affecting image processing, okay? It's every single part of almost science, I should say, to some extent, that is impacted by that. Okay, so here it's like, all of a sudden you have people doing, and you see that a lot. Okay, so you have people that did all their research and professors in image processing that only spend their entire life working on image processing, and now they start to look at other domains. So you have people that worked in image processing for years, and now they start to look at NLP or looking at audio problems and so on. And that is because now there is not that much boundary between the fields, at least at that level. Okay. So as soon as you start to have these embeddings and to kind of reuse what other people have done, then you kind of everybody's talking the same language. Yes.
Would there be a way the algorithm would say it doesn't know what's going on in the photo? Because there's many situations in real life where you have some subscribers going the photo, they don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it will just produce something. That's all. It's asked to produce something. We'll just produce something.
Especially with that sign, that's very
You can see. Okay, so it's a good point. Okay, because it's a classification problem, you can look at the probabilities given to you. Okay, and say, am I doing a good job here? You know. The problem you have is the amount of data you have usually is not high enough that you can get a good confidence on these numbers. Okay, so it's one thing to be able to produce a correct prediction. It's one thing it's another level to be able to give a good likelihood probability. Okay, and usually what we'll find is when you have something like that, which can produce a lot of different labels, is that something I mentioned before in multinomial regression is that the risk is that the likelihood is not very good. You could say, let's look at the second one, third one, maybe they're very meaningful, and sometimes they're not. Okay, it's very much, when you make an error, it just makes an error, and it gives you this with 100% confidence, and you're like, well, it's not. Okay, and that is because you don't have enough data to retrain on. Yes?
How does it decide what details are important? So I feel like it's kind of arbitrary, like which,
yes.
as in, you mentioned them being frisbee, not freeze.
So there is kind of to do that, there's a mechanism called attention mechanism, which is I mentioned briefly. I don't know if I have time to really present that in detail, but basically that will allow you to switch off parts. The system will be able to basically say an image, they will be able to highlight parts of the picture and multiply the other one by 0 and say, I'm only looking at that and talk about that. Okay? So the network will somehow learn how to do that. The network will try to learn how to highlight parts of your picture, or in text processing, there will be highlight, isolate and say, I'm looking more at these 3 words here that seem to be important here.
Segmentation mask.
It's kind of a segmentation mask, yeah. It's called attention mask, okay? But it's basically, you produce a vector of, through softmax, a vector of probabilities, and each probability is associated to what you should be looking at. So maybe you say, I'm looking at this feature and not at this feature, and so on. That's kind of a way of masking out stuff, indeed. I'll try to come with a few slides to just briefly mention that, because it's something that's becoming increasingly unpopular. And if you look at machine translation, they kind of moved away from RNNs, and then come doing more of that attention mechanism. Yes?
Do things like this not have something like top 5 predictions, which could tell us a little bit about how confident the predictions are?
Yeah, so I said you can look at the predictions in your system, but I said the problem I have with that is usually you don't have enough data to get a good idea of what this prediction should be. But the metrics, they have a whole bunch of metrics. For the text, you have something called the blue metric and blue score, and for images, usually classification use top 5, the top 5 error to try to see whether your correct answer is in top 5, or sorry, whether the correct answer is in top 5 propositions. Okay.
So, are these particular captions a class, or in themselves, or are they just something?
No. Each word is okay. Each caption has been generated. The text has been generated by the system. Okay, so the caption is not a class by itself. So every single word has been generated by your system. The classification here is how you predict a particular word. Okay, so coming back on here is, given the fact you have cat here, what is the probability that, and this picture, if you have cat and this picture, what the probability that the next word is sitting, all right? And so that's the classification problem here. Okay, so classify, be able to say, given my input cat and this picture, classify what the outcome should be, and have 100,000 different words or whatever number of words you have in your vocabulary for that. All right. But yeah.
For object detection tasks, how good is single shot box detector and
Sorry, single
shot box detector?
Uh-huh.
And but the problems with that is when you're working with fashion data,
Yeah.
say, particular.
Maybe we'll see that. It's because that's something we haven't seen, right? So we'll talk outside on that. Okay. I'll try to have a few slides on box and region of interest detection and so on. Yeah. Yeah.
May I ask what we're moving on to next? Just like because are we doing more than what they did in the last year?
Yeah. But this is a bit, I think a bit more like the text stuff is more expanded, for instance.
Will we be going to?
So I have to see exactly how many lectures we have left, okay, to see what was feasible. I definitely wanted to talk about autoencoders a bit in detail, but not in much detail, okay. And yeah, there's a few other little points like that I wanted to touch on, but I'll try to keep it relatively light, okay, because we have the last week is mainly keynotes, and we don't have that many classes left, so. Yeah.
Is there one more quiz, or is?
Yes.
Is that on what we're doing now?
Yes. So that will cover up to now. Okay.
Is it on any of the keynote stuff, or is it just?
No, not on the keynote stuff. Just on the RNNs and text embedding and advances in neural nets. It'll be a short one. There probably only be like something like 6 or 7 questions tops. Yeah. Next week, yeah, because we don't have that many weeks left. So if you want to have a repeat, it has to be next week. 5%, yeah. All right. Cheers.